Sarah, congratulations with Egghead and Twinkie.
Thank you so much. It's nice to meet you, Gig.
Hey, it's a pleasure to meet you too. And it's very exciting for this film. You are showcasing this at the one of the largest film festivals in the world at Outfest Los Angeles. How does that feel for you?
Oh, it's been a long time goal of mine to come to Outfest. And so this is my first ever time here and just really looking forward to it. It's a huge honor.
Terrific. Well, we have to ask is what sparked you on the story for Egghead and Twinkie?
Well, it was a long time ago. I came out to my parents at 19, and a couple months later, wanted to write a script, a comedy about the coming out process. So initially, the kind of spark of an idea was to try to take something that historically has been so hard for queer people and try to find the heart and humor in what is oftentimes a really difficult situation. So it was kind of that idea of like a coming of age comedy about coming out that started this whole journey. It initially started with a short film called Egghead and Twinkie that we then later expanded into the full length feature.
So when was the short film actually made then?
The short film was made, it was shot back in 2018 and then released in 2019.
So during when you created the short film, was it always the intention to make a long, full length feature film, and was that a difficult process?
See, I wish I had the foresight to say yes to that, but no. I made the short as a standalone short, and it was only after we got into post that I started thinking about the potential to expand it into a longer story. I always say I think it's because I wasn't ready to say goodbye to the characters quite yet. The characters Egghead and Twinkie are like my children, kind of. And the actors that play them, Lewis and Sabrina, we had such amazing. I don't know. We had an amazing collaborative experience on the short, and so I wanted to work with them again.
Oh wow, excellent! You actually kept the same cast. You kept the same. I'm assuming you kept the same crew too throughout this entire process.
A lot of the same crew, yeah, a lot of the same department heads.
So, what about the two characters that you really love about Egghead and Twinkie here? I mean, they are fascinating. It's because I love their bond. I love their friendship, and your actors have created like absolute great chemistry between each other.
Oh, I'm so glad to hear that. I mean, they have crazy chemistry in real life because they're kind of like brother sister in the way that they interact because Sabrina's a little bit older than Lewis, so it's kind of big sister, little brother vibes. Um, but I guess the thing that makes those characters so special to me is just that I've always been drawn to stories about friendship. So getting to explore that relationship between the two of them was really fulfilling. And then I'd say between the two of them, there's parts of me in both of them. I'm like Egghead in that I'm kind of a nerd and I'm very much a planner and kind of awkward. And then I'm like Twinkie in that I've always been an artist and expressed myself in that way. But I'm also so different from both of them too. So like as character studies for me as the writer, it was really fun to be able to draw on some of my own experience, but then also create two characters who are very much their own standalone people.
Now, with a lot of these type of coming out stories, a lot of them tend to be a little bit more serious, but you managed to come make it as a comedic story. Was that difficult? I mean, where does this all this humor come from for you?
Yeah, it is. It is a difficult line to walk, because I didn't want to diminish how hard the coming out process can be. But at the same time, I think that there is a certain power that comes along with being able to laugh at the things that scare us. So with that, it was just kind of this fine line of having these situational comedic moments, but then also acknowledging the hardship that comes with that, with struggling with your identity and looking for acceptance. So I don't know. I feel like those two things go side by side, right? Comedy and tragedy exist side by side. So that was something that was a challenge with the film, but something I'm most proud of is that when I've sat in on screenings, I've seen people laughing in the first half and then crying in the second half. And that's just the most amazing thing to witness.
Well, I guess the biggest debate that a lot of people and you managed to put it in your film is how do you know?
Right. Yeah, exactly. And that was something that I wanted to have in Twinkie, a lead character who is very sure of who she is. Even though Twinkie's 17, like she knows from the start of the movie that she's gay and she's like very open and brazen about it. So that was something that was kind of appealing to me, to have a lead character who's young but yet sure of her sexuality, especially considering now, given the politics in Florida, that our movie is a Florida film. The whole film was shot in Florida. And there's a lot of legislation there now about, young people not knowing who they are. So I think, weirdly enough, even though this story has been 6 years in the making, I'd say it's more relevant now than ever.
I I mean that begs the question is that with the politics that are going on, especially in that state, does this make it really really tough for you as a storyteller and filmmaker?
Um, I wouldn't say it's made it tough. I mean, I'm really proud of our team because we are like a Florida-based team. I think that we're giving visibility in that, there are queer artists in Florida making great work. And so even though, the political landscape right now can be really disheartening, I feel proud of the fact that we made, a film that I think will uh, maybe change minds or make people feel like they're a little less alone.
Now, I love road trips. What was the original short film a road trip, or you managed to basically pull that into the feature film?
Yeah, it's all the road trip element is all in the feature. In the short, basically, we see Twinkie come out to her parents and we see the awkward kiss at the movie theater. And then at the end of the short, Twinkie says, "Oh, my parents suck. Like we should go on a trip." And that's basically how the short ends. So the feature picks up kind of where the short leaves off, and they go on this epic road trip.
Well, tell us about that production of that road trip because every director I've talked to, it's a challenge.
Oh, yes. Yes, it is. Especially on a micro budget, which this was an incredibly scrappy micro budget production. The majority of the people that worked on this set were between the ages of 18 and 25 at the time of filming, myself included. Most of us had never worked on a feature before. So all that to say, that combined with the fact that it was a road movie, it was just so much logistics and so many things to think about. I think we shot at 22 different locations over the span of about 40 days. So it was a marathon for sure.
Was this your first feature film too?
Yes, yeah, it's my debut feature.
Wow. How was that overall experience for you?
Oh man, it's so hard to sum it up. Um, it was, I mean, it's the hardest thing I've ever done. And there were a lot of uphill challenges, especially considering that initially we were supposed to shoot the film in the summer of 2020. And we all know how that went. So production got pushed by a full year, dealing with the ramifications of COVID and just an extremely limited budget and a really young crew. There are a lot of challenges, but I also think it's the most rewarding thing that I've ever done. And I want to make another feature. So I guess it can't have been all that bad if I want to do it again.
I was gonna say for a lot of directors, after their first feature, they it just becomes an addiction that they have to keep on doing something.
Yeah, that sounds about right. I believe it.
Now, of course, a road trip isn't a road trip without the car. Tell us about that car and you guys have to put that wrap around that car. That's actually pretty hilarious, by the way.
Thank you. Yes, the Egghead and Twinkie car. So the Egghead and Twinkie car is actually my car, like my own personal car. And we had to put this wrap on it with our actor's face because in the movie, Twinkie steals her dad's car. So her dad's a real estate agent and has his face plastered all over the side of his Toyota Corolla. So it was funny. So basically, for 2 years, I'm driving around with this man's face on my car. And it was actually like a full coverage wrap. So I couldn't see out of either of my back two windows. So every day when I would be driving to set in the picture car, I would just be praying, please don't let me get in an accident. Because number one, they won't have their director on set. And number two, they won't have the picture car. So they will be completely out of luck.
You've been driving around for 2 years with a car that has a fake phone number.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, and it's funny because I've had people stop me at red lights and stuff, and like they tell me to roll my window down, and then they yell and they're like, "Hey, I'm trying to sell my house. Can you help me?" And I'm like, "This is fake. Please don't talk to me."
Oh my gosh, that is terrific. I mean, that is one unique experience that no one else would ever have.
You do what you got to do to get the movie made, you know?
Now, this film is very creative because you it's also showing the artistic side of comics at the same time. Could you tell us about how that idea came about to be put into that feature film?
Yeah, I think I've just always really enjoyed animation as an art form. It's something I've always been interested by, but I don't know how to animate myself. So coming into the feature, I'd always felt that Twinkie was a very artistic person. And so in the short, there was no animation, but in the feature, I wanted her to be an artist and to express herself basically through 2D animation that would be rotoscoped over the live action footage. So very early on when I was writing the script, I knew I wanted animation. And at that point, it was just a matter of finding the person that could help me. And that ended up being Jill Safalo Sanders, who's our lead animator. And that was an amazing collaboration. We worked together remotely, actually doing the animation for the film for like 2 years until we finally met in person at a festival a couple of months ago. So it was a really unique and exciting experience.
As a filmmaker, was it difficult for you to rotoscope that into your sequences because you didn't do it like once or twice? You did it throughout the entire film.
Yeah, yeah, there's a lot of animation. Um, some of them are easier than others. You know, if it's like overlays, like little hearts that pop up, that's pretty easy. But then if there were like a moving shot or a tracking shot, just doing the rotoscope for that, oh, such a pain. I don't want to spoil it, but there is one sequence in the film, and Gig, I know you know the one I'm talking about, where there's all this animation all around them. And Jill and I ended up pulling two all-nighters fueled by a lot of Red Bull to get that done in time for our festival submission. So yeah, it was well worth the time and effort.
That is a wonderful scene. I do also have to admit, and funniest thing is that I also enjoyed the credit after the credit scene, and I was and almost I had like this gut feeling that was your storyboard, but it was that done before you made the movie or was that done after?
You mean the comics that's in the end
Yeah.
credits? So that was kind of an interesting situation. It was we Jill made the comic book partway through filming. So it was a situation where when Jill was making the comic, we actually hadn't finished shooting the whole project, nor obviously edited it. So the comic is meant to be a complete retelling of the whole movie. But you'll notice if you do look at the comic more closely that like certain panels in the comic didn't actually happen because we ended up changing them or we ended up taking them out in the edit. So that's kind of a fun thing to look out for.
Well, that is a pleasant Easter egg, most definitely. Well, let me start wrapping things up with you, Sarah. Do you have projects lined up? I know that this is. I don't know if this is the tail end of your film festival run, but it's a pleasant film to, and I know it was showcased at other film festivals before.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, we're kind of in the middle of our festival run now. We started in the spring and then we have a few more lined up for the fall to the end of the year. But for me, I am hoping to make a short next, just because after shooting for 40 days, I think it would be a nice palate cleanser to maybe shoot for 3 days and make something. But also, I am working on a second feature script, so that's in development.
Most excellent. And before I let you go, obviously we're this is being showcased at Outfest Los Angeles, and so I have to ask this question. Tell us about the importance of telling, LGBTQ stories like this one.
Absolutely. I think I kind of touched on it earlier in that, um, when you look at the news and the politics, it can often seem like the world is a really dark, hopeless place. I think it's really important that queer filmmakers are able to have a platform basically to use their voice to speak to their experience. Um, and it's something that for me, growing up, lack of representation, you feel like your story doesn't matter. So events like Outfest that, uplift queer voices, I think are so incredibly important.
You know what? Well said. And you relay that message very well in this film, and people will be delighted to watch it. So, hey, congratulations, Sarah. Thank you for carrying this conversation with us. It is a very pleasant movie, and yeah, I shed tears at the end too.
Oh, I'm so glad to hear. Thank you so much for having me.
Hey, thank you. Appreciate it. Bye now.